Welcome back, everybody, to Uninformed Movie Reviews. It's that movie review podcast. It's that one. You know the one I'm talking about.
You know exactly which one we're talking about.
And before I kick it over for our new segment, there is something that I need to address. This is actually going to be a bit of a confrontation-filled episode. I feel like if you're clicking on this one for your first time, you're going to be confused. There's going to be things being said today that aren't going to make sense to you. But here's my beef, and I must squash it at the top of the episode, everybody. I've been
David, here at the Thirsty Threesome, we got an open door policy. Come to us with all your problems.
So here it is. I thought long and hard. I thought, there's no way I will be a part of the Thirsty Threesome. I refuse. So then my immediate instinct was, let me just edit it all out. Let me just cut it all out of the podcast. But then I wouldn't be respecting your guys' creative license. And also, that's a lot of editing work. You know what I mean? I got to make sure I catch all of them. That's creating work for myself. So I'm thinking here the fairest thing that we can do is we're going to be the Thirsty Twosome and David. Welcome back to David and the Thirsty Twosome. I'm totally comfortable with that.
David, the thing about fate is sometimes it's thrust upon you. You know, you don't get to decide your destiny.
Yeah, but sometimes you'll just edit it out. You know what I mean?
That's fine. We'll see how it ends in the end for the Thirsty Twosome.
All right.
All two of us.
I gave him the chance, everybody. You saw this. There was a conversation. There was an attempt at a parlay.
I feel like as long as we're part of talking about, some notes from previous episodes, let's just go ahead and get ahead of something else and just put it on the record that I am and always will be the stat daddy of this channel.
It's super weird how you've taken this hard stance on a position that you've held for all of one episode and the entirety of this catalog, where I have been myself the one true stat daddy.
I feel like everything that happens in a different administration just needs to be ignored at this point. And
what administration? It's still... We've been here the whole time.
This is great because I feel like Littlefinger right now. I've broken up the Thirsty Twosome. I've gotten my goal, but in another means.
No, the thing about the Thirsty Twosome is sometimes we squabble. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye. Sometimes we, for no reason, try to snake each other's rightful positions. But we'll always come back together at the end of the day. For some reason. I don't know. I still don't know why we hang out.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm sure we'll get into this some more throughout the episode, but we should really start what this episode is actually about, not just random...
Oh, yeah, we're going to do a thing today.
Petty arguments that we're having right now. But we have a brand new segment today. And Danny, why don't you give us the news here?
Oh, everyone, we're excited. Let me just tell you, not just because football season has begun and it's happening, not just because some of our teams, unlike others, won their first game this week.
Rude.
Not just because the Thirsty Threesome is here and on record as existing. We are excited here at Uninformed Movie Reviews because we have a new segment for y'all called Quite the Compliment. And this is the first episode premiering right now.
How mysterious. What is it even about?
Well, I'm happy you ask, because Quite the Compliment is a pairing of two movies that may not be packaged together, but much like wine and cheese, or grilled cheese and tomato soup, or, whiskey and ice cream, they're just a wonderful pairing. And that's what we're doing, y'all. We're pairing two movies that have similar subject matter. Not necessarily came out around the same time. Date of release doesn't really matter. But through our viewing, we have found out they are complementary, dare I say.
Wow, bravo. How clear and concise. Whiskey and ice cream? I don't know about all that.
That sounds like a good way to get yourself in an intestinal emergency situation.
Yeah, those with lactose intolerance, such as Frank and myself, it's a dangerous road.
That sounds dangerous. Well, the movies we're talking about today, what are those? What are we talking about?
I felt like you were going to hit it really hard. You had me really excited to see what you were going to do, and you did nothing with it, which was still very exciting, David. I think first up, just chronologically, we're talking about The Devil's Advocate, which came out in 1997. This is a thriller film starring Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, and others. We'll get there. Runtime 2 hours 26 minutes, 7.5 on IMDb, 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. This film had a $57 million budget, $12 million opening weekend. It grossed $60.9 million in the US alone, but worldwide $152.9 million. Pretty nice little return there.
That is nice. And what a clear and concise presentation of the statistics about this movie, I have to say.
Some would say I've been doing this for a while. Moving on, also starring next to Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, we have John. Hold on. Sorry, everybody.
I spoke too soon.
Johnano Reeves.
Jananu. We have Keanu Reeves playing our protagonist, Kevin Lomax, and I really like this last name, Lomax. I feel like it should have been a name for a detective. Detective
Definitely.
Lomax.
It's a good name to yell.
Yeah, right. Lomax.
Exactly.
He's such a maverick. We have Charlize Theron playing his wife, Marianne. Al Pacino as John Milton, a.k.a. Satan.
Whoa. Spoiler alerts.
Judith Ivey as Mrs. Alice, who is Kevin's mom. And I was trying to place her like the whole time I was watching this movie. I couldn't figure out where it was. She actually acts alongside Kelly LeBrock and Gene Wilder, two people who we've both talked about very recently on the channel.
Crazy.
In The Woman in the Red Dress.
Oh, I've never
She
seen that.
plays Gene Wilder's wife.
Wow.
Additionally, we also have Connie Nelson, who plays Christabella, a very temptation-filled redhead.
The woman in the red dress.
Yeah, the woman in the red dress, oddly enough, who plays Lucia in The Gladiator. And Gladiator, if you're unfamiliar, is a film about a mystical little creature that's bought at a pawn shop from a mysterious person of Asian descent. That's how you say that sensitively.
Wow.
And then wacky things ensue.
Wow, this is a callback. Okay.
I know. I was really excited about that when I realized what was going to happen today.
This is the most out of context episode possible.
Last couple of things until we get a plot synopsis. I just wanted to touch on the team, as I always do. This film was directed by Taylor Hackford, who really didn't do... He did like a bunch of movies that I've never heard of ever before. A few music videos, including Lionel Richie's Say You, See Me, and more notably, Phil Collins's Against All Odds, aka Take a Look at Me Now.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I know we've all seen that music video. Also directed Ray and the Comedian with Robert De Niro. So I've heard of those.
Interesting.
Okay.
This film is actually based on a novel written by Andrew Niederman of the same title. It was adapted to a screenplay by Jonathan Lemkin, who wrote for Shooter, Red Planet, and Lethal Weapon 4. And Tony Gilroy, who did Duplicity, the Bourne series, Rogue One, Armageddon. A lot of connectivity here going on in the channel. And he was a producer on Nightcrawler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, we like to pick movies with people who have worked together, apparently.
We feel the theme.
So Devil's Advocate follows Keanu Reeves, who is this young, very driven, up-and-coming lawyer, super successful defense attorney, undefeated, as a matter of fact. This guy can't lose a case, and he finds himself being headhunted by this like huge firm in New York. They fly him out. They're just throwing gifts at him. They're immediately giving him the like big cases. Al Pacino, the attorney who is the head of this firm, is like taking a very special interest in him. A lot of weird things start happening. We get a lot of, I think, decent computer like graphics for the time this came out, for like 1997.
They're not
Everything looks
terrible.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. It's before the Matrix, so you
Yeah,
gotta give it
definitely.
some credit.
When I was researching the movie, it was categorized as a thriller horror, but I left the horror out of it because I wouldn't agree with that. Like, it's not like a scary movie, but I think all the scary things serve as like a, what's going on around here? What are we doing?
I think it's a horror. It's a drama horror with a
Maybe
small
like a
emphasis
dramatic
on horror.
thriller.
But they
feel
definitely
like.
go for jump scares. You know what I mean? There's quite a few jump scares in the movie.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to give you that. I guess
Yeah.
they do go for a few jump scares.
I guess it's just not like on a traditional horror pathway or anything like that.
No, especially when you consider this movie's like 2.5 hours long, and the first hour and a half have almost no supernatural elements whatsoever.
No.
Like they really kind of work into it, and then even then they're very light on it. It doesn't
Oh yeah.
it doesn't go all the way until the very end of the movie.
They wait to turn the dial to 10 until it's
Yeah.
the right time for sure. And I guess this is a good time to say, like, although we've spoiled a little bit already, like, if you're trying not to get spoiled for either one of these movies, they're both definitely worth a watch. I'll just say that right now. Get out of here. Get out of here right now, because
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about like, nothing's off the table. We'll just, I don't know.
That's
We
true.
already watched it, idiot.
Although-
like, we're going to talk about it.
I mean, can you really spoil Bedazzled? That's the only thing. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
you
these
could,
are
but it's like
old movies. Yeah.
you can look at the cover of that movie, you can read the back of the box, and like,
If
oh,
you
okay,
didn't
I
know
this
what was
movie's
going to
about.
happen, like,
Yeah,
I guess in the sense, right? In the sense we can, because I didn't see The Devil's Advocate until recently, and that's just because it became available on Netflix, which it's on right now. So
well, by you
take
saying
this as
that,
a
it won't
perfect
be out by
companion.
the time we put this out. That's how that always goes.
yeah, we're really good at taking movies off of Netflix.
Yeah, if we say it's on Netflix and recommend it, it'll be gone in a couple days. But Devil's Advocate, I think, is worth not knowing the twists and all that stuff.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And speaking of twists, back to our synopsis, things start getting super weird. We won't get into heavy details except for like shout out how cool some stuff is. Things go awry. You end up finding out that Al Pacino is the devil. Ooh. And he's got a bunch of demons working for him at this law firm. They're just like all over the globe, you know what I mean? Doing things that demons do, but through litigation, which is kind of fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Just like lawyers. There's a line in the movie where Keanu asks him, like, why lawyers? And it made me laugh because it made me think of Zoolander, with just like, but why male models?
Yeah, that's kind of similar.
And this movie I really enjoy as a whole, but you get to the end and they almost nail the landing. We find out that not only is Al Pacino Satan, but he is Keanu Reeves' father. That's why Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves has all this power over
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
because he's the son of Satan. And he's supposed to bring about the apocalypse by having super gross sex with his half sister.
Yeah.
And he blows his head off, and that would have been a fantastic ending. He
Hey,
just,
that's a
like-
great ending.
Yeah, that's a fantastic. I thought that's how the movie ended the first time I watched this recently. Very stoked on like how they put it all together. And Al Pacino's super pissed. He's just like, he's burning into flames. He burns his half sister up. We kind of do a quick jump, and we jump back to the beginning of the movie.
It was all a dream.
And he gets like a second chance.
Or it wasn't all a dream, but it was...
No, because Al Pacino's there at the end, just kind of like,
Yeah.
ha ha ha, get him, son.
Gotcha.
Like, we'll give you
Yeah.
another shot here.
For a second, I was like, go ahead.
No, yeah. I was just gonna say, that it really left a bad taste in my mouth after the first time I watched it. I was like so stoked on it, and then I was like, well, I guess I'll still recommend it to these guys, but just give them a warning.
Yeah,
It's
the
really up
ending's-
to that point for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great movie all the way until that point, and it's just because it's kind of a cop out
Yeah,
in my view. But it's like, it's hard to say whether it was all a dream or whether it wasn't a dream. It's like, is there a parallel universe in which he took that chance and the devil's just presiding over all of it? You know what I mean? And he's able to manipulate it, and he's just like, I still got you with vanity, ha ha ha. But other than that, it's pretty solid watch.
I mean, the ending's pretty dumb. I would... I think I have this movie lower on my totem pole than you guys. I would say this movie is like average, like maybe slightly above average. It's pretty good. It's a little too long.
Definitely
Feels a little too pretentious in some parts, and not like pretentious like the characters are pretentious, but the whole premise just feels a little like, we're so clever writing this 10-minute dialogue for Al Pacino, and then the ending is a little bit of a bummer for me too, but I enjoy it, and I think I think Keanu Reeves ain't too bad. We've been talking a lot about how bad of an actor Keanu Reeves is lately.
Oh boy,
he's pretty solid. I mean, his accent's awful.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Ooh.
like accent warning on Keanu Reeves for that one because it is a bit rough.
He's going
he's
for
trying to do a Southern Florida accent, Northern Florida accent.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not even like. First off, he didn't land it all the way. Anyways, it doesn't sound like someone from Florida. It sounds like someone from another state. But then he's not consistent with it either, so it's bad on like two different accounts.
I'm pretty sure Keanu Reeves doesn't like prepare his accents. Like he does it the first time he needs to for a take.
Maybe.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure Charlize Theron like gave up on her accent like halfway through the movie too.
Yeah, both of them are Florida people in this movie, and it does not last long. But overall, yeah, I'd say it's pretty good.
Some things I really like about the movie, it's got some solid practical work going in. The whole like kind of dream sequence where Charlize Theron's alone in the apartment and she finds that like baby. She doesn't know how it got there, and that baby's holding this like mass of flesh and tendon.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff looks really good. It's got a nice like jiggle to it. It doesn't look.
That's
too
a good
campy.
horror moment that you were talking about, Dave.
That's got some solid horror. There's a lot of good surprises throughout the plot, like things you don't really see coming. Charlize Theron like shoving that chunk of glass into her throat is too sick. Like I feel like that was a really cool choice to make for the story. I was really happy about that. David made a point, like he had a hypothesis about the ending, saying that maybe they had what we thought should have been the ending as the original ending, and some execs came in and said like, hey, that's way too sad, you gotta pep that back up a little bit.
Or maybe they're just like, bro, what if we did this?
Leave it open for the sequel.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. But yeah, overall I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it's nice. Well, why don't we introduce our other film we're talking about today before we get any deeper in the weeds here?
That's right. Before we move to the next film, I just want to say, Frank, that was very detailed, and I really want to thank you for making my statistic notes worthless, and I appreciate that. And the devil is in the details, and you nailed it.
It is really crazy when you've done a lot of research, and just imagine for the sake of this exercise that you've been doing this for a long time. Like this isn't just your first time or your second time, and you've prepared all this research, and then suddenly some Yahoo, some crazy dude who cheers for the wrong football team, just like comes in and swoops in and like renders your notes useless. That is a crappy feeling, Danny. I'll give you that.
That's interesting because, first off, this is a very easily solved problem here. Just one of you does the statistics and the other one does the reviews, and you just split the information.
I don't know, David. That can only be
easy.
One stat daddy,
but then
everyone knows that.
The other funny part is, even today in our uninformed movie review text chat, we agreed that I would be the summary uncle, which you have swiped from me at the same time, Frank. And the way that you're accusing Danny of his heinous crime, you too have committed the same deed. So let's consider that.
David, there was a discussion over the structure of how this podcast was going to work before we started recording, and if you had objection with how we restructured it, that was the time you should have said something.
Well,
back to our regularly scheduled
It seems like you always
podcast.
have an excuse for something, Frank. How interesting.
That is something that happened.
All right, let's kick it on over to Bedazzled, everybody.
At 2, Franco. At 2.
It's fine when no one remembers because, but we weren't recording yet. Never mind. That's why you should always be recording for when we have to go to court in 5 years.
Apple's got us covered.
Hey, yeah, we'll just hit up Apple.
I'll just talk to my NSA agent.
Yeah, dear agent, you know how you got me recording? Well, now's the time where it benefits me. Wouldn't that be cool? If no one will be surprised. NSA agent, like, hey, dude, you know where I left my keys?
No one will be surprised if we go on our Facebook feeds and we see like a recorder advertisement now.
Yeah, right. So who wants to introduce us to Bedazzled?
Let's move it to the summary, Uncle.
Now, guys, I don't even know. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so anyways, Bedazzled. What's Bedazzled about? Well, Bedazzled is a tale as old as time, and it's actually a remake.
David, that's Beauty and the Beast.
Of a 60s movie. And what do I mean by a tale as old as time? Well, Bedazzled's about a simple deal with the devil in exchange for your everlasting soul. And I think we've heard this, do you do it for the blues guitar riffs? Not Brendan Fraser. That's not what he's doing in this movie.
You sold your eternal soul?
Yeah. So Brendan Fraser is kind of, he's like he's a IT person, I think.
Yeah.
He works in some anonymous cubicle. He's upset with his life. He's not happy with himself. People think he's annoying because he is. And he has garnered the attention of a character named Allison. Or I should reverse that, actually. Allison has garnered his attention. He is obsessed over this girl who doesn't even realize that he exists. And I guess in the middle of his, desire to be noticed, who hears that desire? It's the devil. And it's not Al Pacino this time. It's Elizabeth Hurley, everybody. So then they make a deal for their soul in exchange for 7 wishes. So he makes these 7 wishes, and guess what? The every wish ends up being hilarious, but at the same time, it's not exactly what I wished for. Because as Danny was saying, devil's in the details, everybody. So then, what happens at the end? I won't spoil it, but Brendan Fraser gets out of the bet somehow, and he learns to be happy with himself, and thus leads a happy life. That's Bedazzled, everybody.
At least we could assume. Things might have gone wrong for him, like, the next day,
You end something with an upbeat 90s pop tune in the credits, that means bam.
That was a very obscure Bare Naked Ladies-esque band singing a very obscure Bare Naked Ladies-esque song.
I got some notes about that, but we'll get there.
They like sounded like the year 2000, you know what I mean?
They sound like if you programmed a computer, write generic 1999 rock. It's like, bleep, bleep, bleep.
So Bedazzled, as just stated, came out in 2000. It is a comedy, or as they call them in the movie biz, a ha-ha. That was a joke.
Yeah.
Nobody calls it that. Ha-ha. I made a funny. I almost feel like Splinter at the end of the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles joke, where they give him a joke and then they end on a freeze frame.
Oh my gosh.
I felt that corny just now.
So many freeze frames.
Ooh, yikes.
Freeze frame. 93-minute runtime. It's only got a 6 on IMDb, which I feel like is pretty fair. Like, this movie isn't like bringing home awards, you know what I mean? It is what it is. 49% on Rotten Tomatoes. Budget-wise, we're looking at $48 million budget. They made back $13.1 million on opening weekend, which has got to make you sweat a little bit.
Great.
Yeah, gross, $37.8 million US. Still not great. People still are waiting for some money back. Turn it around, $90.3 million worldwide. Thank goodness.
Wow.
We get to keep the lights on. Nobody gets their kneecaps broken. We pulled it out of this one.
Except for Brendan Fraser on that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
oof.
That was for other reasons.
Not exactly, yeah. But it was the start of a trend that was going downwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually looked into that a little bit today.
We may have to talk about that.
What about general thoughts first? For myself, I think this movie, comedic wise, has actually aged pretty well. There's a couple of sequences in particular that are a little groan inducing, but even the ones where they're kind of walking this line of like, is this PC, quote unquote? Even then, I think they kind of ended in a positive light, which is always important in jokes, I guess, what your intention is. But I've always thought this is a pretty funny movie. I enjoyed it. I saw this as a kid, so I think that's part of the reason why. And for 90s kids, I mean, I feel like we all saw 1,000 Brendan Fraser movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on this one. Like, this one, I saw it also when I was younger, and it was just as funny as it is now. I think that there were, like you're saying, there's 2 parts that were pretty questionable that I actually wrote down that I might want to get into. I will say that as far as the overall scenarios or, wishes that he had, my absolute favorite is going to be the drug lord fantasy, which is the first one. I feel like that is just the most well thought out, the most impressive one as far as just pulling off like a wacky scenario out of nowhere. But I was legitimately impressed at like how accurate all the actors were speaking Spanish and they weren't dubs.
Yeah, the Spanish is not cringy at all. And I feel like all the jokes, for the most part in the movie, most of the jokes land, but all the jokes are really solid in the like Colombian drug lord.
Oh, yeah. And it's really good.
It's also impressive from a production design because essentially it's like 7 different little tiny movies where all the actors are portrayed differently.
Well, 6.
6, I guess.
Because he burns a wish on the Big Mac and a
Big
Coke.
Mac and the large Coke. But all of his friends at work follow him throughout all his wishes, and there are different characters in his wishes. Like an SNL
I really have an
skit.
affinity for movies like that. You know what I mean? That like use an ensemble cast in all these different roles. Like,
what's the other one we just did like that? I feel like we just did something like that.
God, what did we do like that? I know, like, there's like Cloud Atlas is a good movie that does a great example like that too. But
That is a good example. That one's really solid.
we did just cover one too, and I can't.
Yeah, and I can't remember. Or maybe we're
I
just
feel like we
confusing.
might just be thinking of John Hughes
All
because he
of-
likes to
all the
reuse
time.
like his actors.
That's what I was about to say. But all the actors do really good, and all the sets look really good. Like everything looks very convincing.
They really do.
There's like an NBA one, and it looks like you're just at an NBA game. And the Columbia set doesn't feel like cheap or anything like that. And
I really like the last real story that we get where he wishes to become the president and she makes him Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Because it's already towards the end of the movie. You're kind of feeling it a little bit at that point. This
Yeah.
movie's only 93 minutes, but for most comedies, you know what I mean? You can't stretch it too long.
Definitely.
And this is at the point they just give you a nice light little thing and you immediately feel the pressure because you find out they're like on their way to go see the play. He's just like, no, like we cannot. I think he says like, can't we just go to a movie?
yeah.
And he's just like, I'm looking for my pager.
Yeah.
My what? My pager looks like a cell phone, you know? And he like drops it on
Yeah, that
some
gag's really
dude off
funny
the
to me.
balcony.
That really cracks me up.
Yeah, there's some good stuff there.
It's really good. I mean, like you're saying, I think it was impressive with like the budget that they had, how big they went on some scenes. Just with like the editing, like you're talking about in the NBA one. I mean, they do like really great editing that makes it seem like an actual game was going on and stuff.
And also,
like go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, but also just how big he is. Like the cool like kind of camera work and CGI stuff they do to make him look huge.
You know what? That and the
They did the,
practical
force
effects they do.
system.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying that you're right. They're doing the forced perspective thing like they did in Lord of the Rings kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're nailing it. They're doing like a great job. The practical effect they do in that scene where it's got to be like the top of his wig, you know what I mean? Where he's giving the interview at the end and the sweat's just like dripping down his face.
Oh
and
my
as
God,
the
I
interview
love
keeps going,
that.
he's just like spewing sweat all over this reporter. That's like really
That's
funny.
amazing.
It's really funny because those guys are dripping at the end and it's just
Yeah.
like they just turn the faucet all the way up by the end of that interview.
Super simple little joke, but yeah, it lands really well.
And they stretch it. I mean, I think it's the second wish when he wishes to be an overly sensitive man, you know what I mean? But look at like how they brought the scale down, you know what I mean? It's literally on a beach somewhere in California and it's like 2 scenes where it's like you got the big tough guys and that's it. There's no like explosions and stuff. So they really knew how to like flex their budget.
Yeah, it's like
Well, that's
one
what they could
spot
do.
of sand and maybe like 3 camera angles for like that whole little sequence.
And in that sense too, the pacing's really nice because everyone feels like a little bit different. You get into a new dream, it's like, okay, what are the new rules? Where are all the new characters and everything? And they get shorter and shorter, like Frank is saying. By the end of the movie, you're the pace is literally picking up. You're like, all right, let's get to the end here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel it resolving like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go.
That's really nice.
How's it going to get out of this one?
That ensemble is killer though. Those dudes that you meet in the office, you know, like Orlando Jones and I can't remember the other 2's names, but
I forget one of the names. The other guy is Toby Huss, which I love that dude because he's in *Halt and Catch Fire* and he's hilarious in that. And he's also in something we watched recently. We like spotted him in there, and I talked about *Halt and Catch Fire* that time too. But I don't.
he might
remember what
also
it
be
was.
in Ozark too. I can't remember.
It might have been Deep Impact because we were spotting all the like. It seemed like in Deep Impact, every soldier character was a famous actor.
I think it might have
It
been.
was really weird. Well, so on this segment, the point here is to bring 2 movies together. I think on the surface, obviously, there's something that connects these 2 movies, like the devil being the premise.
That's right.
But we should get into some of the comparing and contrasting of these 2, because I know this was like a pitch from Frank and some input from Danny. I had very little to do with this decision.
Well, you know what's exciting? We've been talking about doing one of these movie pairings for like a long time, and we hadn't come up with anything yet. So really, just
This one was
excited
pretty
to be here
organic.
today, guys.
Yeah, this one just kind of came up really organically. I really love that it happened like that. So I mean, you're talking about similarities and some differences, David. Like this movie, you have obviously 2 characters interacting, 2 protagonists interacting with a second main character who is the devil. I'd say, if anything,
Different
Because
relationships, but that's 100% what's happening.
That's true. Although I would say Allison maybe doesn't have as big a role to play as Charlize Theron.
What?
Oh, you're talking love interest.
Oh, who are you?
No, we're talking about like the protagonist and Satan.
Oh, I'm getting confused. When you said that, I thought you meant two protagonists.
No.
With
In total two.
In total two, yeah.
Because there are two
Right, yeah,
films.
in
Well, can
total
you
from
call
both movies.
Satan a protagonist though?
No. See, that's the thing too. It's like the devil plays
once
a main
again,
character
we're talking
in both
about
of them.
Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
and Brendan Fraser
Oh,
as the protagonist, and then the
I'm
devil.
getting so confused here. Okay, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Each movie has one protagonist who
Yeah.
makes a deal with the devil.
There,
Okay.
now you're picking up what we're putting down.
yeah.
And in both movies, the devil plays a main character, whether it's not. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure that both of them have a prominent role, and I guess even in Bedazzled, the devil is the antagonist. I guess Elizabeth Hurley ends up being the antagonist.
I think so. Although I think there's a fair argument that Bedazzled is a man versus self movie. It's not really Elizabeth Hurley. I mean, yes, she is ruining these dreams for him.
Well, they both are a little bit. That is one similarity, if I can jump in here, that I did see between the two movies is both devils kind of backpedal a little bit at the end. Like Elizabeth Hurley even tells him, Brendan Fraser at the end, like, hey, I kind of like you, and she helps him out by giving him that like weird clone of Allison, the girl he was into, but one that he's actually like compatible with. Like that was kind of weird. Like at the end of that movie.
Is it expressly said that she's the one who made that Allison
No,
clone?
but it is. Like, you know
That's
what I mean?
interesting. Well, because I just always assumed that was just like one last little gag.
No.
Like, his next door neighbor is another girl like who looks like the same girl. And maybe if you like had opened your eyes and weren't so, focused on this, creeping on this one lady forever, then maybe you would see all these other people around you. But
No,
that
I
makes
thought
a lot
it
of
had
sense
to be
too.
the devil because she's also like perfect for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's like, if Elliot had a best friend in this movie and they made a lady like with their computer by like putting in a bunch of input, it'd be that chick that moves in. You know what I mean? That's exactly how that would go
interesting.
down.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess we didn't actually. I guess before we move to there, we should talk a little bit about how we talked a bit about how the Devil's Advocate ends. But I mean, how Bedazzled ends is what's his name? Brendan Fraser Elliot ends up like using his last wish to ensure that Allison has a happy life, right?
Yeah, he learns to be a little bit
act.
less selfish.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's some.
So it's like a
rule.
selfless act, which is like a part of the small print in the contract that he signs, which is really interesting. But then there's that whole little redemption where he's locked up and he's with a character who's possibly implied an angel or God or
God.
something like that.
I always assumed it was God.
That guy's in
Especially-
Black Hawk Down.
Especially the little chess match that him and the devil play at the end, which is weird because that's like another reference kind of to like what we had just seen in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. But anyway.
Well, that's the thing too. And when that part came up, I thought, is this how it ends? Is it because God tells him that he doesn't have ward over his soul already, so it's not his to bet away? And I guess that's part of it. But the real part of how he bests the devil is, that selfless act that he performs.
Yeah, there's a clause in the contract about selfless act of kindness.
Which
gotta
also
love clauses and contracts,
Not to
Without them, we wouldn't have the Santa Claus.
Yeah, I could take it or leave it. But that line from God has always kind of struck me a little strange. Not to start a religious debate here or anything, but God is saying,
which one, David? I'm sorry.
God is saying like, Brendan Fraser, it wasn't your soul to give away to begin with. But then Elizabeth Hurley lets us know, like, I've been doing this for thousands of years and I've taken all these people's souls. And you're the first one who's ever gotten out of the contract.
Elizabeth Hurley's like, he can say that, but like, I've got your signature.
Yeah, Elizabeth Hurley's like the car repo person.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. It's already here.
Once the soul's on the truck, it doesn't come down. Haven't you seen Lizard Lick Towing? This is how it works.
Well, if we're going to talk about...
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought up the way that ends. It's Brendan Fraser's choice to become less selfish. which is essentially like bones wise exactly how Devil's Advocate ends. Like Keanu Reeves stops being so selfish, does the selfless act of like shooting himself instead of giving the devil the satisfaction, and that's how he kind of saves the day.
That is pretty
Also
similar.
does the selfless act of shooting his career in the head
Yeah.
by going, back, and then he like exposes the pedophile rather than winning that landmark case.
True, Dan.
Oh,
and then-
yeah, through that stupid ending. Sorry, I forgot about how dumb that ending was.
But then that's exactly what I'm getting to, David. Like, this is the part that ruins the whole messaging, because he ends up falling for the vanity part of it again. And so did he actually win? I don't know.
How long does Charlize Theron get to keep her throat that second time?
Not much longer. But, I'd argue that Keanu Reeves didn't shoot himself in the head out of selflessness. If anything, it was just like revenge almost at that point. Like, you know what? I'm going to get rid of you. You've destroyed my life and everything in my life.
Yeah, I can see that. Screw you, Dad.
The vengeance.
Whereas Brendan Fraser is like, you know what? This devil is really like not letting me take advantage. And I only have one wish left. You know what? I'm going to give it to somebody else because this is not working
these
for
damn
me.
things are broken anyways.
Yeah, this stinks. I'm going to get nothing out of it. I might as well give it away and hopefully someone else can get some happiness out of it. Of course, Devil's Advocate's way more intense than Bedazzled,
Yeah.
so.
I don't think
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser had to make love to his half sister, so it definitely lost out on that.
When I was writing my notes comparing the two, and I had the point about them both like becoming less selfish, I think I wrote something in here without having to find it, that it took Kevin, Keanu Reeves' character, a lot more convincing, like way more convincing.
Yeah, there's a whole dynamic in that movie that just feels like every single haunted house movie. It feels like the first Conjuring, where it's like, oh, the house is haunted. I saw a demon last night, and the husband's like, oh, be quiet, honey, I'm going to work. Like that's how
Yeah, it
the first
definitely
part of
has
Devil's
that
Advocate
air
feels.
going on. It feels like Rosemary's Baby a little bit.
Yeah.
Like she's like isolated in there. You know what I mean? Her husband's off at work and nobody believes her.
Well, this kind of segues to a good point, a distinction between the two devils.
Distinct them.
Neither one, and to varying degrees this is true, but they're not necessarily directly affecting the outcome. And for instance, Bedazzled, he makes a wish. Is the devil messing the wish up? Yes, but she's technically giving him everything that he asked for. But the problem is the devil's deceitful and works in trickery. You know what I mean?
Right.
But ultimately, it's his fault for making the agreement, and it's his free will that goes through it. And free will's a huge thing in Devil's Advocate, because when you watch the movie, it's almost arguable that Keanu Reeves is more of a bad guy than Al Pacino
Yeah.
is. Because
Al Pacino's made it available for him
influences
to
his free
change the
will,
course.
but in the end, it's Keanu Reeves' decision.
yeah, and for almost and up to a point, there's a point where Al Pacino is directly intervening, especially the stuff involving Keanu Reeves' wife and everything. But up to a point,
You mean like having forceful sex with her?
well,
Is
yeah,
that is that intervention?
but it's also like not
directly.
It's not real, but it is real. It's complicated because he's like breaking, he's in two places at once.
Yeah.
Or he's like invading their minds.
Both devils do have like special powers, and they can both transform.
They're
both
omnipotent, pretty
devil-like.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. They show omniscience and like omnipotence,
Yeah.
and telepathic abilities and psychic abilities, and they're both able to speak a multitude of languages and stuff. And but you're right, David. I mean, like, well, that kind of goes in with the whole mythos of Lucifer. Also, it's like that's his whole MO is about free will and change and the choice. You know what I mean? So he wants to show God that given the choice, his creation will go against him.
Did you all catch, especially, well, it's in Devil's Advocate only, but as Keanu Reeves is making these bad decisions and getting more and more in line with the devil, his outfit is getting progressively darker and darker and darker. Like at the beginning of the movie, he's in all these really light suits, beiges, light shirts and ties. But by the end, he's wearing like a full deep black suit, and he looks like, just like what an attorney you would expect to look like.
His slick back hair is somehow even like wetter.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, his hair is evolving too with his outfit. There's some cool.
Yeah, I didn't catch that until you pointed that out. It's really interesting. You know, another thing I wanted to touch really quick before we move on to kind of comparing.
Was it your nose with your tongue?
Yeah, I can do that. Check it out. No, it's we talked about a bit about their similarities, and in talking a little bit about Bedazzled, it's actually, you were right, David. It's the remake of a 1967 film, which in itself is an adaptation. It's a comedy telling of an old German legend, Faust, which is it's like a classic German legend about a wealthy man who's unsatisfied with his life, willing to sell his soul to the devil to find happiness in life. And that also ends up being an inspiration for the novel behind Devil's Advocate as well.
Ooh, so they have a shared source material.
Exactly.
Tale as old as time.
Yes, but lucky for us, Harold Ramis and friends decided to scoop up this screenplay, give it another treatment. And I was thinking about it when I was checking this out. We have to do like a Harold Ramis ranking at some point, right? Like some Harold Ramis directed bys.
That would be good, actually.
There's some good stuff in that catalog.
I mean, I never noticed that. I mean, as a kid when I watched this movie, I didn't care who the director was. But when I saw Harold Ramis' name pop up last night, I was like, oh, well, that's why this comedy still works.
Yeah, right?
Because it was written by a sharp dude. It was overseen by a guy who knows what he's doing.
By a genius, dare I say.
Mm-hmm.
With those big glasses come foresight, I guess.
Why don't we get into comparing a bit? Let's do the big two.
Well,
we'll compare.
Wait, hang on. Before we compare, I got one more striking similarity that I need to share with y'all.
Hit us with it, David.
Okay, brace yourselves, everybody. Are you all familiar with the film term, the magical Negro?
Yes.
Yikes. No.
Yeah, that's our friend in the cell in Bedazzled.
Exactly. So,
who have you guys ever seen this movie called Black Dog with Patrick Swayze? That guy's one of the drivers in Black Dog.
That's a good. We should top 3, bottom 3 truck driver movies.
Ooh, Meatloaf's in that movie.
Number one's Convoy, baby. Okay, so anyways,
now I understand. I think from hearing this, I can get it. But go ahead.
Well, I'm going to refer to this as Magical Black Man. I hope everyone's okay with that, but I feel more comfortable saying that.
I do as well.
So, Magical Black Man, and in particular, Magical Negro, is a term used in film, and this is a quote from Christopher Farley, who wrote an article called "That Old Black Magic," and it came out in Time magazine. In the cinema of the United States, the magical black man is a supporting stock character who comes to the aid of white protagonists or those of a higher caste in a film or stage production. Magical black characters, who often possess special insight or mystical powers, have long been a tradition. And I have a few examples for you. There's John Coffey from The Green Mile. That's like a very obvious example.
Prominent, absolutely.
We have Dan Halloran from The Shining, who is little Danny's connection, and really is an exposition machine. He like lets us know what is going on in The Shining.
He's also in Dr. Sleep.
We have spoiler alerts, man. We have Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I'm particularly referring to the man who is, I think, supposed to be God in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Who's working the I don't know what you call that on a train track with the 2 levers that you push down on each side.
Just call them push carts.
I think it is a push cart. Few more examples for you. The Legend of Bagger Vance. Now I haven't seen that movie, but it was given as a prominent example.
You know what? I have seen that movie, and I forgot it existed till you just mentioned it just now, David.
There you go. There's one. Here's one that hits pretty close to us because we just watched it not that long ago. Annabelle. And if you remember in the first Annabelle movie, there's this black lady who works at the bookstore who knows all about all the black magic stuff and gives the information to our protagonists so they can find out what's going on.
Yeah, those minorities and their black magic.
Mm-hmm.
Can I throw another one at you guys?
Give me one, man.
This one's kind of a weird one. How about the Oracle in The Matrix?
Yes, very much so.
Another movie with Keanu Reeves.
That's a really good one. Well, the reason I'm bringing this up today, though, is both of these movies have the magical black man. In Bedazzled at the end, we have the magical black man who is probably God or an angel, like we were talking about earlier, who sets Brendan Fraser on the right path. And then, strangely enough, it's a much more minor role. But in Devil's Advocate, we have a magical black man who is doing like some sort of animal sacrifice, and it's really used as more of
or something. His name is
it's used as more of a set piece. They like go down into this like it's a basement, but it looks like a dungeon, and it's all there's candles, and it looks like some sort of black
the
magic.
hallway they walk through at the beginning of Beer Fest.
Yeah, it does. It totally does. But I just thought that was so interesting. It's weird to see those kind of patterns pop up. But both of these movies to have it back to back, pretty strange. But I think
Pretty interesting.
I think that's my last similarity.
I like that. That is a really good tidbit.
That's some weird stuff, man. And once you notice it, you'll never like be able to look away from it. Oh, and one last one. I mean, this is a little baby thing. Neither one of these women passed the Bechdel test, and by that I mean the love interests. And I just thought it was interesting that they're both treated as objects in these movies.
I was going to say something about it earlier, but I think I just got lost in one of the fantastic points that one of you well-spoken gentlemen were probably making at that point. Or I was just thinking of like an argument to jump in with after you guys were done talking. Don't really remember specifically what it was. There is that issue with Bedazzled, but I think part of it is to serve what happens at the end. Because part of the problem with Brendan Fraser's character is like he's obsessed with this woman that he like knows nothing about. You know what I mean? He doesn't know her at all. And that's why like she's treated like an object, you know what I mean? But by the end he's like, well, this is just a person. Like she should just go be happy, I guess.
Yeah,
and I should just go try to be happy.
I agree with that. And I think that's the right messaging, but the character Allison serves no purpose or has no growth. She's just there.
She's the object.
To be an object and then to be, okay, it's good. And
then, you know what? By the same token, in the end, he's kind of rewarded with her again. So they do objectify her like that one time. And they're like, you learned your lesson. Here you go.
And it's like, don't worry, we changed your personality, but she looks exactly the same. It's kind of a bizarre message to tag on.
We tuned this one up for you.
I think we just found us another similarity between the two because the character learns the lesson, but then is still granted a treasure for their trashy behavior.
True.
It's just another trap of the devil.
The devil. Hail him. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Just hail him.
No, don't.
So with all those comparisons, characters being like a big one, there are a lot of similarities in the characters. I think one of the biggest differences is also within the characters, and that's our protagonists. I feel like the devils land a little bit closer because, I mean, it's the devil. How far away can you get? But Elliot is...
I'm sorry, but Al Pacino's considerably more attractive. Let's just get that out there.
Well,
I mean, they are similar, but...
Actually,
you know what I'm saying?
In my notes, I have Elizabeth Hurley way hotter, Al Pacino way hornier.
That's hilarious.
His output is turned up to 12. You know what I mean?
Real.
That guy in that movie is.
That's funny, Frank, because the first bullet point I have on mine is Elizabeth Hurley, undeniably sexy.
This guy
in her 19 outfits in that movie.
Danny, we may not agree on history or football teams, but we know who can get it and who can't.
Stat daddy is.
Yeah, that's what I meant by history.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that.
Because it's that important. It's a historical fact.
I thought you meant your guys' interpretations of the founding fathers' intent. That's what I got from that.
That's a whole other argument, and we do not discuss that in front of other people. So Elliot is a putz, you know what I mean? He's like not super likable. He's not doing great in his career. So much like Brendan Fraser, sometimes art imitates reality. You know what I mean?
Man, don't do that to Brendan Fraser.
I had to do it to him. I'm sorry. It was in the notes, David. If it goes in the notes.
You can do it to Will Smith, but we will not talk trash about Brendan Fraser.
Kevin is the exact opposite. As we said before, super driven, successful. I feel like these antagonists couldn't be further apart, except for the fact that they found themselves in a situation with the devil.
One is far more self-serving.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably Kevin Lomax, obviously. But yeah, you're right. Elliot is super like socially awkward, and you get a little bit of that in like the intro office scene where he's basically being Michael Scott, and he's like going around and he's like making super like socially awkward comments to everyone. Like there's actually one where like you guys probably saw it where he starts talking to Orlando Jones like in the office, and he just comes out with like the Ebonics moment. And that's like actually one of the two cringe moments in the movie that I was just like, I do not remember this at all.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't quite catch that as a child either. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, whoa. Like, yeah, of course. And I think it's purposely, you're supposed to cringe at it.
Yeah.
It is like a Michael Scott moment for sure. That's exactly what kind of vibe he's giving off.
Yeah, because his coworkers are like straight up ducking him. You know what I mean? They're putting up like a lot of effort to avoid this guy, and you don't feel bad for him. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, I
No.
get it. Like, you guys should have gone to, like, when he catches him at the bar when I was watching the rewatch, I wasn't like, oh,
Go to a
poor Brendan
different bar.
Fraser. I was like, why didn't you guys go to a different bar? Like,
Yeah,
idiots.
exactly.
Yeah. Why doesn't Brendan Fraser just wish for a tolerable personality and he'll just be done?
I wish I
Oh.
wasn't so darn unlikable. I wish I weren't so awkward, bud.
Let me see here. Well, you know what? We're dogging on Brendan Fraser a little bit. I feel like it's time to bring this up.
Hey, I just want to go on record. I love Brendan Fraser. You
I
know what
also do.
I wish he hadn't have injured himself and his career started sliding down the toilet.
You guys better say that now because you're gonna feel even worse.
But
once
I
finish
also
giving
want to
you
go
these
on
notes.
record. Looney Tunes is hot garbage.
Okay, well that's funny that
Hey,
you mentioned
man.
it. So
Well, what about Dudley Do Right?
Dudley
That's
Do
whack.
Right
wow.
is garbage. I'll watch it right now.
George
though.
of the Jungle.
Okay.
Garbage.
Encino
I'll
Man?
also watch it right now.
you guys
Same.
you guys are hitting this right on the head. So basically, and I don't have it exactly written down in front of me, but I remember most of the numbers. Brendan Fraser did the first two Mummy movies, I think in the same year or like back-to-back years, and those movies
Killer.
grossed over
Hot.
$400 million.
Hot tamales.
Oh my God.
We're talking some huge giant hits.
David, that's a huge stat. Are you sure you aren't the one true stat
Are you
daddy?
sure you're
Look at me,
qualified
Frank.
to say those stats?
Look at me right now. So yeah, he killed, right? And then he had three big flops in a row, and you guys named
Named them
two
all.
of them. The first one was Dudley Do Right, which I had forgotten about until I read about it today.
Never forget.
The third one is Looney Tunes back in action. Do you guys know what the middle one is?
Is it George of the
middle
Jungle?
one-
No, George
No,
of the
George of
Jungle
the
was a
Ju-
success.
Our parents paid those people a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. Furry Vengeance.
No, that's much later. That's like 2009
Dang it.
or something. Well,
No, I'm out of guesses.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know. I can't think of any other projects that didn't slap.
you'll know this movie immediately. Monkey Bone.
Oh, I love
Oh,
Monkey Bone.
Bone's
That
good,
movie's
but you
amazing.
can't you can't give a lot of money to a project that Chris Kattan is involved in.
Well,
That's
you
a
also
rule
can't
of the
say
universe.
that Monkey Bone would be a popular success.
Well,
it's definitely a cult movie.
Monkey Bone's got a cult following, but yeah, it was a box office flop. Most of these movies made like 10% of their budgets back, like the three of them. So then studios are second guessing it. Is this gonna work out or not? But then around the same time, and this is right before Looney Tunes had come out. Brendan Fraser has made an accusation that he was sexually assaulted by Philip Burke, who groped him at a meeting. He's the ex-president of the let me see here. It is the I don't remember exactly what the acronym stands for. It's the HFPA, which stands for the Hollywood Foreign Press Association.
Oh.
And if you're not familiar with them, they're the ones who run the Golden Globes. So this happened to Brendan Fraser. He fell into like a pit of despair about it. He had like a bit of a mental breakdown. He said that he didn't want to come out with the accusation because he didn't want it to become his narrative. But he did confront this guy and say, demand an apology, which apparently from his account, Brendan Fraser, he was blacklisted. He wasn't invited back to the Golden Globes and he wasn't able to act in movies. And then, fast forward, he does have a bit of a resurgence with Journey to the Center of the Earth and The Mummy, The Dragon Emperor. But by that point, he had done so many practical movies, like Frank was saying, his body was like really falling apart. He needed extensive surgery, like knee replacements, work on his spine after working on another Mummy movie. But yeah, it was bleak, man. He fell in a pit of despair. His wife leaves him.
Takes I think half of his money at least.
Yeah, and then he's got financial issues because he's not acting anymore. He's trying to pay his child support and everything. And then today, luckily, Brendan Fraser has made a little bit of a comeback. And he's starring as one of an ensemble cast in Doom Patrol, which had very favorable reviews. It used to be on the DC streaming service, and it was so favorably received that HBO has purchased it. And they're going to show it
It is on
now.
HBO Max.
Yeah, it's on there now. I think the second season and the first season.
I've heard
Wow,
great
that's
things
not just
about that
TV.
show.
That's something big.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I just
Wow.
thought, man, I had known that he had gotten messed up, and I knew that he had made some bad choices film-wise. But the sexual allegation thing, that was new to me, and it's so unfortunate to hear.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
I heard about it when it was coming on TV, but I didn't know if anything of like concrete was came out about it, or if there was like an apology. But I had recently known that he came back into films. I actually saw him in a movie I can't name recently, and I was surprised. But I did not know he's also part of Doom Patrol. Interesting.
Yeah, he has been in a couple other films too. He's making a bit of a comeback. Hopefully, we see more of him. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, I love that man.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, good times with Brendan Fraser, except for the
Part of
ones
our
previously
childhood.
mentioned. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But sometimes you got to forgive a comedic actor.
Hey man, we're talking Pauly Shore films. We got Encino Man in there, and
I mean,
that's got both
Encino
of
Man's
those
a
guys.
heavy hitting one because you got Pauly Shore, you got Brendan Fraser, and you got cute little Sean Austin.
Sean
How
Austin,
can you lose?
But also, Monkey Bone is worth a review too. That's a great movie.
I'm just hearing that we need to do a Pauly Shore ranking episode.
I'll do it.
God.
We're
I'll
gonna
do it so
rank
hard.
the films of Pauly Shore.
That might be one of the toughest rankings for me ever. No, that's not true. I already know how I would rank them.
I would never go that far, gentlemen. But we can always dream.
Pauly Shore is a very funny topic to me because I understand why people dislike him, and it's because he's like a terrible actor. That being said, find the man hilarious.
He is hilarious. Don't get me wrong. His role is one of my favorite in a Goofy movie and an extremely goofy movie.
In the movies where I can't see his face. Okay, so we've talked about the devil. We've talked about our main protagonist.
Ow, we didn't compare devils yet.
Yeah, the Devils
Oh, I
have
thought we
some
did.
differences as well. I was
Oh,
saying they
okay.
were like pretty similar, but there are some differences.
Oh, we said the similarities. What are the differences in the devils?
Well, one of them is undeniably sexy, as we have figured out.
Al Pacino.
One of them's an
Elizabeth
old
Hurley
man
is
with
more
extremely yellow
what
teeth.
I would notice that
That's
Elizabeth
mean to say
Hurley
about
was
Elizabeth Hurley.
a little more classy, and she shows more omnipotence, I would say. Obviously, because the movie takes more warrant to show it, because it's made known that she is a devil right away, and there's no review. I mean, there's no reveal. So the powers are used more up front. The ruse presented from her is presented in a different way because the main character is aware that he's engaging in something supernatural from the beginning. But she's also more blasé about like God's presence. She acknowledges that he's there, but that he's not really a concern to her. Whereas when Al Pacino talks about God in The Devil's Advocate, you can see that he's more critical of him, and even like equating him to like a sadist, and he's doing more, scripture reciting. And I just thought that, like, Al Pacino was presented as like, he's not immediately supernatural for those reasons also, but he does show some psychic and telepathic abilities. Obviously, he's a bit of a horn dog, as it was also shown in the
Just
movie.
a skosh.
Elizabeth Hurley, she's definitely like the trickier one. She's like, she knows that he's never going to be able to get his way out of this. Al Pacino, he seems just so debaucherous to the point where he doesn't even feel like the devil to me. He feels more like Dracula, and particularly that Francis Ford Coppola Dracula, where it's what's his name? I always forget.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman playing Dracula, and he's using his psychic mind powers to like
Yeah.
get inside and to accost Mina Harker in her bedroom and all this stuff. It's Devil's Advocate. It almost doesn't seem like the devil to me. He doesn't seem as evil. I don't know. It seems weird to say that kind of thing, but it's really more on Keanu Reeves in Devil's Advocate.
I think you're kind of hitting it perfectly, and it complements what Danny was saying in a way, because Al Pacino's devil is a way more subdued. He's more about like working in the shadows, you know what I mean? Much more like a lawyer would. Like, it's all about like backroom deals and like the way that you word things. Versus Elizabeth Hurley's devil, she's way more out front, and it's like they kind of tell you that that's the character you're going to get with their like real world occupations. Like, Elizabeth Hurley runs a nightclub, like in her real world job, like in Bedazzled. Al Pacino is like the head of a law firm who sits in his like top office. He's a mysterious character. You know what I mean? I thought that was something interesting about like their occupations going like directly in line with what kind of devil they were. And I think the debauchery from Al Pacino comes from, and I think it's perfect that you gave it the like Dracula comparison. It comes from that like he knows he has all the power, you know what I mean? So he's like just kind of like how he's staring at Keanu Reeves from across the table while he's being serviced by that young lady underneath the table, just kind of like,
Oh yeah,
I can make him do whatever I want.
What a moment.
Man. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I do, because I can.
yeah. That's a crazy scene. Al Pacino, man, Al Pacino, he has a great performance here. I think they give him maybe a little too much free reign.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, how do you tell Al Pacino
Yeah.
to like
Tone
pump
it
the
down.
brakes?
There's this point where he's literally like dipping his finger in holy water, and he does a quick
Oh,
look to
yeah, and
camera.
he's like
they
looking
do
up
like a,
like, ah.
they do like a hard Tarantino zoom on him, like he's Leonardo DiCaprio or something.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, definitely he's more nuanced in his performance. But you know, like Hurley is. You're right though, because I think Pacino's devil is just really just reveling in the fact that he's like steering one of God's servants into a way to serve him. But it's really interesting because there's another staunch difference in that Keanu Reeves is actually his son. So like, why does he have to prove it against? I guess because he's his half son. I don't know. It's a little bit confusing.
That does get a bit messy. And
Well, it's like Al Pacino. It really all depends on like that one quick line when Al Pacino's like, you know, I've had lots of children out there, lots of screw ups, and then there's you two. Like you two were perfect. Like I was finally waiting for somebody who wasn't a complete freaking moron who could like help me out with this end of the world thing. And look, here you
now
guys
he's
are.
like, and now kiss.
Now smash your parts together, and I'm gonna dance in the background while you do it.
what?
Let me Mr.
Oh,
Black
wow.
this thing in the back while you two are getting it.
If you think about it from that perspective, Devil's Advocate is really just like one Wish segment of Bedazzled. Like
Hey.
if you just imagine like Keanu Reeves at the beginning was like, I wish I was a very successful lawyer, and then the devil like messes up his wish, and instead of shooting himself in the head, he just pulls out that little pager and presses 666, and then whoosh, it goes all the way back to the beginning again. But little do you know, the devil's gonna trick you again. Oh no,
He's a tricky one.
he's a tricky one.
I guess before we wrap up talking about Quite the Compliment, there was one thing we wanted to talk about. I think I had 2 cringe moments listed in Bedazzled.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
we
Tell me
didn't
your
get.
cringe moments.
So the second one, the first one was the Orlando Jones moment in The Office where Brendan Fraser's doing like a very Michael Scott bit with the ebonics on him.
Fair.
The second one is there's a scene where Brendan Fraser comes out of one of the Wish scenarios and he is in a classroom and you see Elizabeth Hurley, you know, dressed up like a teacher, teaching a bunch of white boys.
Very
And-
familiar with the scene you're describing, yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, like there's a point where they talk about German imperialism. They're going over the homework for the list, and she says German imperialism in World War I. What's done is done. No point talking about it. And then she goes over to the next homework point, which is like we're gonna go over German, French, and Spanish homework. And she's like, yeah, oui, si. Everyone else speaks English around the world, and if they don't, they should. And all the white boys cheer. And I was just like, whew.
Yeah,
That's spicy.
that's funny. I wouldn't even say that's a cringe for me. I just think it feels so accurate.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
exactly what those kids were hearing at home anyways.
yeah, she's like at this super
Yeah.
white prep school, and for her to say it, you know that it's supposed to be like, well, this is a thing that evil people say.
Yeah, I would say it's less of a cringe moment and more of like an affirmation of what's happening.
I don't know if you were here for David's big fun fact reveal earlier, but he told me that Elizabeth, that Catholic schoolgirl outfit that she's wearing, that's Elizabeth Hurley's. Like she owned that thing. Like she brought it to set with her.
Oh
Now,
wow.
that's nice to know. I wonder if she still has it.
Slide, slide into those DMs, Frank. Find out.
Yeah, right. That's never worked out for me before. Poppy,
Where are you?
where are you? Yeah, why? Poppy, can you
Oh,
hear
I
me?
forgot about that.
Yeah, she did too, Danny. She did too. And you know, this isn't just this segment's not called apples and oranges. You know what I mean? We're not just comparing these two, but really saying these two movies go well together if you're
Yeah.
doing like a double feature. And one of the reasons being, I think that like As David mentions, Devil Advocate, like the runtime is a little bit long, you know what I mean? 2 hours, 36 minutes. And it definitely feels its length. The pacing isn't overly slow, but it is like a walk, you know what I mean? You're taking a walk through this story. And then you come in with a nice little light palette cleanser. You don't take all the devil out of the night, and you have this nice little back and forth between Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley. It's delightful.
Yeah, I think for this segment, at least when we were talking about it, I imagined that you had to watch these movies back to back.
Yeah.
Like you were making one experience, like eating.
Or these movies would sell together well in the checkout line at Walmart in the 2 for DVD pack.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you eat the cheese and the wine at the same time. You don't split them apart on a day. That doesn't count.
The Lunchable snack pack and the Kool-Aid jammer.
There you go. There you go.
The milk and the cookies.
Yes.
But I think these two go really well together. And as we're coming to a close here, I would also just say that, like, I feel like you have to watch Devil's Advocate first. I agree with you 100%, Frank. I think if you go the other way around, you're going to be a little miserable.
Yeah, that's, it's a liquor before beer situation. There is a proper way to do this.
You get that salty sweetness.
Hey, well, before we move on, there's just like one last little thing that I wanted to bring up about Bedazzled, and this is just the weirdest occurrence that happened. We had made a joke, or I had made a joke, I should say, about Bedazzled. I don't remember when we were talking last week, but I was talking about the movie ending with that song, like, it's hard to say what it is I see in you, like super 90s. So then I was like pumped to hear that song at the end of the movie. I was like, all right, let's get our 90s on here. And then you get some other song. You get some other totally different song. And it was, I wrote down the lyrics so I would remember what it was. If you want to be somebody else, if you're tired of losing battles with yourself, whatever, that song.
Yeah.
Well, the funniest thing is they're by the same artist.
Huh.
They're by Sister Hazel.
Sister Hazel. Yeah.
Sister Hazel, It's All For You is the name of that first tune, that their big #1 song. And I just thought, this is so weird. Who would have ever guessed that Sister Hazel has 2 songs?
Yeah. And that your brain just like, you're like, that one's not good. I'm just going to remember it as this other Sister Hazel song.
Yeah, my brain was like, no, I don't remember that song.
A much stronger choice.
Well, anything else?
Here I was thinking that movie would end with Chickadee China, the Chinese chicken.
Ooh, some bare naked ladies would be interesting. Now,
It could have.
that's how you start off a Digimon movie, Danny. You don't end Bedazzled with that.
Oh, Digimon.
That's all. I don't know, Danny, did you have any closings?
Yeah.
I feel like I've said everything I really have about these movies. They're a solid watch. Would recommend them to everybody. If you're going to be watching with like a small impressionable child, there's probably some things you should explain to them, or just kick them out when you watch Devil's Advocate, because let's be honest, there's some nudity going on in that movie.
Yeah, you have to have like kind of an open sense about sexuality to watch Devil's Advocate. If you're like a little closed-minded about that, you're gonna be very uncomfortable during this movie.
I mean, Charlize Theron, whose name I've been struggling with this entire time, is showing them throughout the whole movie. The lady from The Gladiator is showing them around. That lady from Law and Order SVU, she plays a medical examiner. She's showing them. Everybody's showing them.
And
be warned.
I don't even mean literally just like, the like showing
the context
stuff,
right.
but also
I
like
do.
the intense like sexual themes going on in Devil's Advocate.
The incest.
Probably pretty big to be trying to deal with like an audience that's not ready or not wanting that at all.
Yeah, the incest is a whole nother thing. You know what
I don't want to know what audience is wanting that, David. And
well, it's just like
George Michael, the character from Arrested Development, he would be into it.
Yeah,
He'd
that's
be
a great
into it,
example. Like the French Cousins or whatever it is. What's that movie?
What do they call that movie? It's like
Cousins in Love or something
the
like that.
Dangerous Cousins.
Dangerous Cousins. Yeah.
Yikes.
That's exactly what I'm talking about here.
Well, boys, that signals the end and coming to the close of our first segment of Quite the Compliment. Give yourselves a hand.
It was quite the job, y'all. Good job,
Quite
everybody.
the
Good job to
job.
the listeners at home. Good job to you
Thank
two
you for sticking
gentlemen.
with us.
And a real good job to me.
And that, the audience, you really should feel proud of yourselves too, because you were here witnessing a part of history. And let's let's prep. Let's move on to. Oh, that's interesting.
Ooh, how interesting.
How interesting indeed.
Fellas, it's another first on this channel. I think this is my first time presenting an Oh, That's Interesting.
Wow, that's wild.
I don't think it is, but I'll play along.
I might have done it when we did the West Covina Massacre one. I'm not sure.
Which West Covina Massacre one?
Yeah, that's another question. But I think you did it back when we did a podcast. I don't think you've done it on uninformed movie reviews.
Hey, first, oh, that's interesting on uninformed movie reviews. Yeah.
A first of firsts. Well, gentlemen, for my Oh, That's Interesting, I saw something that is pretty interesting, dare I say.
I guess we'll be the judge of that.
If you don't tell me, I guess I'll have to just take your word for it.
This was being reported by a number of reputable sources. We've got the New Yorker, the Washington Post, Axios, the Atlantic, which recently just threw out a bombshell of an article, dare I say.
Has Black Twitter said anything about it? If it's not on Black Twitter, I'm calling BS.
Is that really your news sources? All this fake news?
I don't react to nothing unless it's on Black Twitter.
Wow.
I tell you what.
I don't think it is, but it might be on other sources. This article, I'm going to read the Atlantic's. This is from the Atlantic, named Something Weird is Happening on Venus. This is from September 14th, 2020. Boys, before I get into this, what an awesome title. Also,
is this a 60s book about women empowerment?
Did they find out that boys are from Venus?
Whoa.
It's time to get into it.
Cracking a Croy.
Danny,
you can
crack
hear the
and open
bubbles on
another
that too.
amazing story for us.
Spicy water. Okay, here we go. Scientists revealed today that they have detected traces of gas in the Venetian atmosphere that, according to everything they understand about Venus, shouldn't be there. They considered many explanations for what could be producing the gas, known as phosphine, and settled on an explanation guided by what they know about our own planet. On Earth, phosphine, a toxic gas, is produced by microorganisms. As crazy as it might sound, our most plausible explanation is life, says Clara Sousa Silva, a molecular astrophysicist at MIT, and one of the authors of the new study, told me. Now, they want to express that before everyone starts screaming, oh my God, it's life. People need to empathize, or the scientists would like to empathize that the discovery of phosphines molecules in the Venus atmosphere does not mean that scientists have found solid proof of alien life. But it's simply evidence.
But have they found squishy proof?
It's gaseous proof.
Do you have any liquid proof?
This is simply evidence of a phenomenon that scientists can't yet explain, which is interesting. Is there a biome in the clouds above Venus? Because a lot of what the article is explaining a bit about the science of Venus, obviously it's much closer than Mars and ourselves to the sun. It is going to be extremely hot and uninhabitable to any forms of life that we know right now. But it is showing that gas typically caused by life and dying microorganisms or living microorganisms, which is very smelly, which is a calling card for life, is visible on Venus for unexplicable reasons. Maybe it could be caught in a chasm of some sort of gaseous, properties, but it's unknown before.
That's pretty wild. And science has tons of words that are really fun to say, like gaseous and a chasm. Very satisfying things to hear, very satisfying things to say. Aliens, y'all. Give me aliens.
I would say both gaseous and chasms are both things I refer to when I eat dairy.
Yeah, that also fair.
Wow, we've come all the way back to dairy.
As we spoke of your lactose intolerance before, yet it has reared its head again, much like lactose intolerance is wont to do.
Everything comes full circle.
This kind of news sometimes bums me out because I'm like, man, they still haven't found the aliens yet. You think, how big is the universe? Just give me the aliens. Where are you?
They're already here, David.
I guess Men in Black style. I don't know. That's kind of a bummer too. But hopefully we'll see aliens eventually. I just think Venus. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. On Mars, they found single cell organisms, or is that incorrect?
I think they found.
I think there's
they
been
found
signs of water.
Like they
Yeah.
found
That's what it
water
is.
was the big discovery.
But wasn't there
have
something
found-
in the water, like on a
They have found extremophiles, which are somewhat like
Like
single
those little
cell
water bears,
organisms.
like those little water bears,
That's what I'm talking
like
about.
tardigrades.
tardigrades.
But
That's
they're-
the smart word. Thank you.
But they are like single cell organisms, I believe, much like extremophiles, which are a class of single cell organisms that can be found in extreme climates, much like here on Earth, like at the bottom of Lake Vostok.
I'm glad you
which is
clarified. I thought you were talking about somebody like David Carradine.
Extremophile. That's a whole other kind of file. But yeah, I believe that those have been found not on Mars, extremophiles, but I think they have been found in comets and asteroids,
Okay.
frozen. But that is also evidence, at least from what I can gather and remember, of there being evidence of life strewn somewhere else and being able to survive the travel of space.
Or at the very least, alien ghosts attached to that comet, a la Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
David, don't be
Hey.
ridiculous. Alien ghosts aren't a real thing.
That's what
Ghosts
I
aren't a
draw-
real thing, but alien ghosts?
Yeah, you guys haven't seen that documentary, Final Fantasy and the Spirits Within?
I'm unfamiliar with
movie
this
is
documentary,
flame.
David.
It's coming soon to a movie pairing episode near you. Final Fantasy and the Spirits Within, and how Stella got her groove back, and I'll pitch it later after the podcast.
Pitch it. We'll see how it goes.
I feel like that movie would work really well with like the Resident Evil movie, where it's like two movies based on video games that had nothing to do with the video games they were based on.
Hey, that's not entirely fair. Resident Evil had a little bit to do with its video game.
There were infected.
There were like 4 zombies in that movie.
Umbrella.
There was a liquor.
They kept that
they
going,
kept
right?
Umbrella.
The Umbrella's a thing.
The underground lab.
But no, Danny, that was quite interesting. It's very
You know what?
enticing.
How, what's the word I'm looking for? The mind races, Danny. The mind races with the possibilities of space.
It feels like
provoking.
it's not the final dish of, all right, guys, so they're here and they want to talk to us,
Yeah.
but it's another appetizer, if you will. It's keeping our appetite nice and hungry for the big reveal.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes on the sky. The truth is out there. I want to believe.
Thank you, friends.
Double
Well-
X-Files quote. That's pretty tight, Frank.
When you feel it, you feel it. I felt a Mulder speaking through me.
Well, everyone, I guess we've gone up the road, we've gone down the road, we stopped by Danny's house for some oh that's interesting, and now we're here for Peeps and Predicts.
Is that what's at the end of this cul-de-sac we call a podcast?
Yeah. So what is Peeps and Predicts? Well, we got some names in this jar. They're in pairs. We're gonna pull one of these out right now, and they could be real people, they could be fictional people, and then you know what? We're gonna have a debate about them. And what are we gonna debate? Well, we're gonna pull out the predicaments that these people are in out of another jar. Although, spoiler alert, Frank has forgotten one of the jars. So I will be for this first time only recycling the jar.
I was just going to say, those of you that are listening and not watching, the boys are back in house. And
Yes.
it's interesting because Frank was just complaining about not being able to physically pull these out before. And now you can't physically pull it out from the other jars. So this is just crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like this for anybody else, but sometimes when you try to make a situation better, you just make it a whole lot worse. And that's definitely how it goes for me sometimes,
Okay, and this is so funny. We have quite a few peeps in this jar, and every time we do an episode, we toss in just a couple, but it's a small percentage of the peeps in the jar, and we got one of them today.
Nice.
So
Fresh boys.
Today we're talking about Brendan Fraser versus Keanu Reeves.
Not so fresh
All right.
boys.
2 men who were leading men and then weren't leading men for a while, and one of them's come back and the other one's working on it.
One is far more successful than the other.
Yeah.
2 actors who you see and go, Wow, blank has gotten really old.
All right, what's our first predicament?
Who is more likely to have accidentally begun a wildfire from negligence?
These are both fresh takes.
You know, I don't even want to accuse one of these guys of this because they seem like lovely people. And I have a close personal friendship with Keanu Reeves, and
As
great guy.
discussed previously.
Great guy. Doesn't believe in fire, actually. Fun fact.
Interesting. I would say that Brendan Fraser's character in Encino Man also didn't believe in fire. Dare I say he might have been scared of it.
I think this is a great time since we've been stopping so many beefs today. In this predicament, is it Keanu Reeves or is it Keanu Reeves and every character he's portrayed?
I believe it's Keanu Reeves because
Right.
that's who's on the paper, right? Keanu Reeves and
Yeah,
Brendan
because I
Fraser.
feel like if we get into that, then it's like, well, Neo could stop any fire immediately.
Yeah, he could do a lot of things. But I really think Keanu Reeves, who he is as a person, he's like very thoughtful.
Yeah, he's so
what I mean?
thoughtful.
He is like a very thoughtful dude. That's one of the things he's known for. He just like doesn't step on toes. Also, like in just the videos that I've seen, he seems like a very coordinated person. I saw like all his training stuff for like the John Wicks over at like
His
Saving
three-gun
Arms
challenge.
and Terran
That's a
Tactical
good
and all
point.
that. I think he'd be pretty unlikely to start a fire. Brendan
know what?
Fraser, well, I don't think he would do it out of malice. This is like out of negligence. You know what I mean? I think he would be more likely to start a fire. Maybe because of, one of these accidents and surgeries that he's recovering from. He like knocks something over because he throws out his
Okay.
back.
Okay.
I would be remiss if I didn't play the devil's advocate on this.
Wow.
And-
Hey.
And that's how you tie it all together, folks. You're watching a pro doing his thing right now.
And boy, will I. Let's say this. Frank, you brought up a great point in that Keanu,
I do that.
Keanu is he works hard on his tactical abilities, especially for practical, stuntman work. He wants to do some of his own stunts, especially in John Wick, and therefore he's really good at these 3-gun contests, and
And also,
has
if I can
gotten-
throw it in there, an avid motorcycle rider, you got to know how to pay attention.
both of which use combustibles, let's just say, but also to play the devil's advocate.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. This Bobcat fire, which is actually not far from my house, probably about 20 miles or so, 25 miles, was started
Maybe
from-
closer now.
maybe even as we speak. This Bobcat fire was started from a gender reveal party, as you may have heard, in which they used... Oh, you know what? I'm wrong with it. It was an explosion of some sorts to reveal what gender their baby was, which was just fantastic. However, it was akin to another one started in Arizona 2 years ago that was started by tannerite. Now, bear with me here, fellers. Tannerite is also used
For
in
tanning.
target practicing as
Ooh,
well.
Okay.
Now, this is where I'm tying it all together. Could Keanu Reeves have accidentally been doing some accuracy, shooting with the rifle, be it, or whatever, and had tannerite out there and accidentally caused the fire?
Well, let's
from
be honest.
negligence?
Tannerite's not for training. Tannerite's
For
for
fun.
fun. Tannerite exists because it's fun to watch things explode. And if you can cause that explosion by shooting a gun, that's just a good old American good time. So while I do see your point with like the Tannerite being involved in that world, I don't see Keanu Reeves like blowing up a bunch of Tannerite. If Keanu Reeves wants to have a good time, he's going to strap himself on top of a crotch rocket, go zooming around those California hills.
I don't think those things are mutually exclusive, though. If you love guns, you don't want to blow something up. And if you're Keanu Reeves, you have the money and the means and the time in which to do so. You know what I mean?
No, but Tannerite's for like people who like me and Danny who find a random spot in the desert. You know what I mean? You
You're
can't
telling
go
me,
to
you're
a
telling
really
me
nice gun
rich
club.
people don't want to blow stuff up.
No,
Like you
but
get a
they-
certain amount of money and you're like, you know what, I'm good. I don't want to blow stuff up anymore.
But rich people don't blow stuff up like Danny and I would. We have access to Tannerite if we want to go out and buy it. You know what I mean?
Definitely,
Rich
yeah.
people
Yeah.
rent a helicopter, you want to blow stuff up. You get barrels of gasoline, you want to blow stuff up.
and the argument you're making makes it seem more and more likely that could start a wildfire unintentionally.
Yeah, but
The man
Keanu-
lives a high octane lifestyle. If he even slows that bus down, it's going to explode. It's going to cause a wildfire.
Yeah, but the thing is, Keanu Reeves isn't one of those shooters. Keanu Reeves is a precision speed shooter. Versus, like, if we were talking about Ted Nugent, I could see Ted Nugent accidentally starting a fire because he made an explosion that's too big.
To be fair, Keanu Reeves could also crash his motorcycle somewhere in the hills.
Yeah, see, that's another thing too.
And he is a movie star, so I'm pretty sure his crash, to your guys' point, would be a big explosion. That's just how that's just how crashes are out there.
I feel like he's more likely.
But you know what? In The Mummy,
it's like,
I'm just kidding. I don't have a point there.
you know what? I feel like I'm the one who needs to make the decision here because you guys are both firmly set in your camp.
I think it happened naturally this way.
Yeah.
I didn't intend to come out this way, but
I'm going to have to agree with Frank. And here's the only reason why. I think Danny's brought up great points, but even if Keanu Reeves was, you know, hanging out of the side of a helicopter shooting this giant machine gun and all this brush below, he's so rich that there's probably someone there to make sure something doesn't catch on fire and put it out immediately. Like,
He
it's
would
not
take
like he's
care
going
to
out
do
by
that.
himself.
versus
True.
like Brendan Fraser, who right now, like, bless his heart, probably couldn't afford protective gear.
Wow. Don't treat Brendan Fraser like that, Frank. That is
I
so
Probably couldn't
blessed
afford a
his
helicopter ride.
heart, David.
That is we all know what bless your heart means, Frank. You're not fooling anybody. Hit us with the next one.
I'm gonna have to relent and say that you're right.
Oh, so because we got a unanimous decision there.
Dropped one. I'm just gonna put that back here for continuity's sake.
There you go.
And our next predict that we find ourselves in with these two gentlemen. Who is more likely to return their father, Satan, to their stolen throne, a la Little Nicky, another devil-centric film. How delightful. Nothing but fresh picks today. There's a lot of stuff in these jars. And
Yeah.
we're only getting the fresh stuff. How fancy.
That's how the world works. So, in this circumstance, both of these people are the child of Satan,
Yes.
and one of them will work to return Satan to his seat. You know, I feel like Keanu Reeves has the natural bad boy in him, and the natural, I'm not going to listen to my dad. We saw it in Devil's Advocate. I think Brendan Fraser, I think he's got this one. I think he's in it. He's in it. He stuck around for 4 Mummy movies, everybody. That takes a certain kind of person with a certain kind of level of commitment and drive.
Unless you got anything, Danny, I'm ready to go gun-ho into this one.
Take it away, buddy.
All right, so counter argument, I would argue, just based on actual events, you know what I mean, in both of these dudes, that Keanu is much more proficient in organizing a comeback. His comeback has been way stronger than Brendan Fraser's. Maybe there's still time, you know what I mean? But Keanu's about to have a big year having 2 of those movies come out at the same
true.
time. As far as comebacks go, Keanu knows how to do it, baby. Or at least he knows the guy who knows how to do it.
That's true. But I would argue, you know, against that point, are these comebacks really going to be related to getting Satan into power? Like one of them, he's going to do the Matrix 4. Well, he's just continuing a movie franchise that, let's be honest, was waning anyways. They probably, they really needed to tighten that thing up.
Well, sometimes they don't let movie franchises die, you know?
Now, I got to give you John Wick, but let's be honest, not the most clever movie ever made. Is it entertaining? Yes. Do I love them and do I want to watch them right now? Of course.
Have they been successful?
But is that the strategy you need to get Satan into power, the trickster himself, the man of deceit?
Yeah, you know, David, a lot of things are political. Maybe he just needs to win a few people over to Satan's side one by one, get him back to that throne, get him back to hanging out with Rodney Dangerfield. I'm really just grounding this in the Little Nicky universe.
I've never seen Little Nicky, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh,
But,
that's worth a watch.
I mean,
It's a movie. It's a comedy.
I don't know. At a certain point, I'm sorry, Adam Sandler. You know, I can't do it anymore.
That's definitely one of his greats.
What say you, Danny?
It's a good.
You know, I feel like you're the point given that Kevin Lomax kind of had that chance.
Not Kevin. We're not talking about Kevin Lomax, though.
Oh, we're talking about Keanu Reeves.
Although, to kind of take up Danny's argument here.
That's so, although it got me so excited.
Think about this. Keanu Reeves played Kevin Lomax. He studied Kevin Lomax and his decisions.
Did he study so much, do you think?
He did. I just watched an interview. I can pull up on my phone right now where he's giving a careful and thoughtful dissection of the character and his motivation. Keanu Reeves, is he the best actor? No, but he's a well-studied guy. He's a professional, classically trained actor. You would think that maybe he learned something from that role. And if, coincidentally, his unknown father, Satan, came to him and said, "Hey, Keanu, I need you to get me back to power," then you could be like, I did that movie already, Pops, and I'll be honest, it didn't work. It ended with me shooting myself. And I was married to Charlize Theron at the time, and I made a bunch of bad decisions. Like, have you seen Devil's Advocate? It's ridiculous. Charlize Theron looks so good. I should have just went back to Florida.
Versus like Brendan Fraser, who right now will probably take like any job.
Yeah, and Brendan Fraser will do anything. You know what I mean?
It's hard to mess with a man who's got nothing left to lose, David. I'll give you that. I think
right.
I just
in
switched
both
camps.
of these decisions, you are putting again a man that has everything versus a man that has nothing right now.
I will not take this Brendan Fraser disrespect anymore.
These are just the facts, David.
Facts don't care about your feelings. So
this
that
is
it?
not Ben Shapiro.
I've jumped ship, man. You've convinced me.
Brendan Fraser, everybody.
Fraser.
Our peeps and predicts.
Did he win the first one?
He won the first one because he was more likely to
That's
start
right.
the fire.
Ah, true. Nice.
Well, here we are at the end of our road, everybody. We finished this matchup, but we always got to go against the reigning champ, and in this case, it's Principal Vernon.
An unlikely champion. Will he stick around? Let's find out.
Let's find out.
For our final predict for this momentous occasion, who would benefit more from selling their soul for blues guitar skills?
The old crossroads conundrum, as they call it.
I feel like Brendan Fraser would probably still benefit from more than nothing that he has right now.
Well, I got to admit, too, because let's think about this. First off, Principal Vernon's a character, right? He's not a real person. And his reach is not that far.
His reach extends only to the runtime of his film.
Yeah. And if anything, he makes a minor effect on these young people's lives. Whereas, imagine if Brendan Fraser came out tomorrow, he's like on Good Morning America, shredding on some blues guitar. Everybody's like, what? And it's like, Brendan Fraser's playing blues guitar?
We'd be talking about it at work.
Yeah.
Hey, man, did you guys see Brendan Fraser playing blues? I had no idea that guy played guitar.
Now, flip that around. Imagine like we lived in the world of the Breakfast Club and Mary sends us a TikTok of some principal playing blues guitar at his school. We'd be like, that's pretty cool, I guess.
But that's it. That'd be the end of that. We'd be like, cool. I've seen a 5-year-old play like that on the internet too.
It's like you see someone shred on banjo. That's cool. You see Steve Martin shred on banjo. Your mind's blown. How's this possible? This man's hilarious, and he's destroying the banjo. And then just one last point. Now you can get a Brendan Fraser Steve Martin duo album of bluegrass. Come on.
The album nobody asked for, but the album we all needed.
Yeah.
Will it restore harmony to the universe? There's only one way to find out.
It aligned the planets.
David, I can't think of an argument against this.
I mean, it's got to be Brendan Fraser.
It's got to be the man.
How fantastic. In a in a year where a lot of people are taking a lot of L's, Brendan Fraser caught a big W.
There you go, man.
And one of the things that matters the most, the segment we end our podcast with, Peeps and Predicts champion for now. Long may he reign. Brendan
Fraser, I will defend you to the death on this segment, unless we get one that obviously is not you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unless you're not suited for one of these challenges. Yeah. In that case, there's nothing we can do about it. We don't make the rules. We just make the rules.
I find us here at the end of the episode of and dare I say it, everybody, a devilishly good episode.
Ooh.
You may say, David.
Yeah, any last words here?
No, I mean, I would personally like to say I'm very happy with how Quite the Compliment #1 came out. Thank you all for listening. Please be ready because this is the beginning of some devilishly good episodes because we are moving slowly into spooky season, y'all.
Yeah, man.
Oh, spooky season's right around the corner.
Ooh, and boy, are we going to go hard. And we would really appreciate it. And if you all... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just want to do a shout out right now. I've had this idea drumming up in my head, and I'm the kind of person where if I say something out loud, if I commit to it, then I have to do it. If I keep it to myself, I'll just never do it. You know what I mean? This October, guys, I'm going to run the gauntlet. I'm going to go 31 horror movies, one every day of
There
the
you go.
month. And I don't know, I might put out like a 2-minute long review for everyone on Instagram. Just
Give
a quick,
the people a quick blurb.
just
David.
a quick, this is what I saw for Halloween today. It was hot garbage. Tune in tomorrow. That kind of good quality content.
Well, look forward to
think
that. I know I
That's
am.
dynamite.
Send us suggestions. Leave your comments below.
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe. As always, check out the stuff on Apollo City Comics.
Hit that bell. Follow us on Spotify.
Yeah, shameless
Apple Podcasts.
plug while you're on Spotify and Apple. Well, I guess it won't work on Apple Podcasts, but jump over to Apple Music. Check out Phantom Kim while you're at it.
Yeah, why not?
We got a lot of new
Ooh.
stuff cooking over there for you. We'll have
right.
some new stuff coming to your faces soon.
Yeah, do you listen to this show and start to move your butt right when the music kicks in? That's Phantom Kin, baby.
Yeah, get on over there. Keep that butt shaking.
That's us. That's 3/4 of Phantom Kin. We're right here, right now. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. This is David and the Thirsty Twosome signing off.
Thirsty.